Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I'm delighted to be having a second conversation. That's right. He came back with comics creator Mark Bertolini. Mark, thank you for jumping in and joining.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again. I guess I did a good job the first time around.
Of course, of course. This is a space you're always welcome, always glad to talk comics. And I know the last time we met, we did kind of a 3,000 foot view of your creating. Folks out there will know you for work like Scum of the Earth and Knowledge and Oxymoron. But I know that we're talking about a project in particular on this episode.
Yeah. So I guess I'll jump into it.
Sure.
So back, the very first thing I ever had published was back in 2013, and it was a comic called Breakneck,
Hmm.
published by 215 Inc., who are now Invader Comics. Um, and Breakneck was the first thing I ever had published, first thing I ever really, truly felt like it was a worthwhile thing to create. And so I partnered with an artist named James Bolton
Hmm.
and a letterer named Matt Brown. So we put together 4 issues of Breakneck, and then we created a fifth issue. But the fifth issue kind of, uh, due to a number of factors, it never materialized. And it sat for a very long time. I mean, this is 2013, so over 10 years without any new Breakneck stuff in the world. And the main reason I wanted to chat today and talk about this is that we're going to be relaunching Breakneck through Zoop
Hmm.
as a hardcover, and that's going to include that never before seen fifth issue.
Nice, nice. Now, as far as the origins of the project, you said this was sort of your first step into comics. What kind of helped you make that move for the project?
I mean, I've been a comic fan my whole life. You know, I wanted to draw comics originally, but I'd never really had the patience or the technical skill to be a comic artist. But one of the things I really liked was creating stories.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I started to refine my approach to comics to focus more on writing. And I don't know where the original impetus for this story came from, but it was essentially the idea of a lone supervillain alone in the world against every superhero on the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought it was a pretty decent idea. You know, if you made this guy very competent and skilled and able to hold his own, but then I thought that that's not really the story that I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell a story about the crappiest supervillain left alive, the guy that they didn't even know was still around, and that's the only reason why he's still kicking is nobody knows who he is.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
became the story of Breakneck, and the idea was for it to move at a breakneck pace, so to be really quick. Um, and I think we did a pretty good job of it with these. So the first 3 issues, I don't know, I'm gonna show number one,
Hmm.
and then others here. Sorry, this one was my favorite cover, the Vitruvian Man cover,
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
and then this was Breakneck issue 3, where the main character faces off with the big bad who was actually the big good.
Hmm.
So those 3 issues were published through Diamond, were in comic stores, the whole bit. So that was a pretty big deal for me, like right off the bat, seeing my listing in Diamond and seeing my name in there and stuff, and it was actually really cool. And I had some great partners on the project too, with 215 Inc. Were super supportive of it. James Bolton, the artist who co-created Breakneck with me, has a really. I mean, I'm just gonna do this again here. A very interesting style,
Yeah.
very unique. Really fit the tone of what I think we were trying to do.
Mm.
Um, and Matt Brown, with the original letterer who did the first 4 issues, um, when it came to issue 5, I actually brought in my friend Micah Myers, who
Uh-huh.
led up the
Uh-huh.
fifth issue. And Micah's done a lot of work for a lot of guys, so he issued the lettered the fifth issue for me. And it was, I don't know, it was just earlier this year where I had been talking to the guys at Invader Comics about maybe trying to re-release the book, and they've sort of moved in a different direction, so away from superhero stuff, which I get. Doing superheroes outside of Marvel and DC, I think, is tough.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's where I kind of had the idea that maybe I would do like a crowdfunding kind of thing, and that's when I reached out to Zoop, and we started working on putting this campaign together.
Yeah, that's very cool, and love that you took the initiative to share it, to get it out there, and to pull in that fifth issue as well. So I imagine that was rewarding to pull in sort of the complete view and the complete project.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, the story was originally planned to be 10 issues. I think that's one of the pitfalls of being a very young, not that young, but a naive comic creator at the time was thinking that I'd have 10 issues that I could, spread this story out over.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think I realized just how much goes into creating a comic at the time, right? So we got 5 issues. There's a couple of gags in the fifth issue that I'm super excited for people to read. You know, a
Hmm.
little me poking fun at some kind of classic superhero stuff. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I want is to get that fifth issue out. Like everybody worked really hard on it, and
Yeah.
it's essentially sat on my computer for 10 years, right? So it's the right time.
Yeah. Oh, and you held up that example of John Bolton's work and such interesting panel work as well as the way that he uses like the graphic weight there. So really attractive visuals. And to have somebody like Micah Myers who's done I don't even know how many books.
Oh yeah,
That's a wonderful collaboration.
and we have a new cover for this hardcover that Valentin Ramon did.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's done work. He did Hot Band. He did the Dave series. So he's a friend of mine. He's fantastic, and the new cover he did for the hardcover that's going to come out is amazing and really timely. I think
Hmm.
so. I'm excited for that as well. And I can't forget. I don't want to forget that the logo for Breakneck was designed by my friend Carl Yonder, who Carl and I have been creating comics together for a long time. He's moved over into doing more paintings and art shows lately, but he really gave us a pretty awesome logo, so I don't want to forget about him.
Yeah, yeah. For those checking out the video, I'll make sure the logo is above us as we're talking about it right
Oh,
now
okay,
as well.
that's
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah.
there it is.
Yep, that's it right there. Well, I love a good anti-hero. I mean, a character like Superman, yes, I will always enjoy Kal-El and a character who's goody good, truly good, all the way. Will save a cat in a tree anytime. I love that. But it sounds like you're playing with some really interesting character dynamics to bring in somebody who's the Condiment King, the villain that's sort of overlooked, uh, but then gets to also be the character that we root for. So I imagine that was a lot of fun as well.
It was, and I love that you mentioned the Condiment King. That's it's a pretty good example. So the main character in Breakneck is Ethan Shade, and he's got some sort of nebulous shadow powers, right? We don't really dive into it too much, but he's also like I said earlier, he's the worst supervillain, and not like a Doctor Doom worst, but he's the worst. Like he just can't get it together.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you know, like I said, the only reason he's even still alive after the heroes wiped out all the villains is because nobody even knew who he was, and he knows it. He even calls himself in the book. He says that he's at best a D-list villain.
yeah, yeah.
So he's well aware of his kind of his station in life. He lucked out and managed to get onto a team of supervillains, like sort of the preeminent supervillain team of this universe, and just through sheer bumbling luck, but was never really a well-respected member of the team, even by the people on the team. So he's the deck is stacked against them the whole time, and even when the heroes face off with him, they're just like, who are you?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think ultimately you kind of do feel bad for the poor guy after a while.
Yeah. Now, from the description that I've read and from the imagery I've seen, there's also kind of a, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but kind of a survival kind of aspect to the book as well that kind of mixes in.
Oh yeah, for Shade, he's really on the run, trying to do whatever he can to save his own tail. Because when he finally becomes known to the heroes, it's when every hero on Earth is gunning for him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he even says at one point, he says, "I never wanted to be this well known." So yeah, he's on the run essentially the whole time, and we see sort of his interaction with his old teammates from the supervillain team and how they treated him, and how he gets treated by the heroes when they finally come face to face. So it pokes fun at superhero comics a lot,
Mhm.
um, but at the same time, I think it's kind of my love letter to superhero comics because you know, like most, I think like most comic book readers, I grew up reading superhero comics. Like that's where my heart lies with superhero comics. So this was really my attempt at just trying to add something to the whole superhero lore.
Yeah, yeah. But to get to take a different direction, as I mentioned, we sort of seen a lot of takes on the superpowered character from another planet or from another dimension and things like that. We've seen the grim and gritty heroes. So really nice to see a character who kind of gets to find their way through villainy.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm really just I'm excited. That all of the product that Zoop has put out so far that I've been involved or like that I've read is amazing. Like
Mhm.
they have such high production values, and really it's the very best option I think for Breakneck. And the other thing too is so in addition to the 5 issues, um, I don't know, a very long time ago, I commissioned 3 short stories, sort of just set in the world of Breaknecks, not necessarily focusing on the same character. And I'm gonna have those included in the book as well. So it's gonna be a pretty good collection, and I'm excited. I'm excited to have it. I'm excited for people to get to read it again, and maybe even find you know or learn about this book after 10 years later, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned it had to be nice to sort of see all of the issues come together as someone with a vision for a longer arc.
it is, yeah. So the first 3 issues kind of tell a complete story, and then the fourth issue is a bit of a separate entity. It still ties into the whole overall story, and then the fifth issue is also another look at Ethan Shade's life, you know, after everything goes down. So yeah, it's nice to have them all together. It's nice to have everything collected, and I mean, who knows? If there's enough interest in it, maybe I can I'll dig out those other 5 issue scripts and we can maybe see if we can do something with those as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That leads me to kind of a process question, which is, are these sort of in a George Lucas notebook somewhere? Do you have sort of the vision in process that way?
I mean, technically, yeah. So again, sitting on my computer hard drive, when I started working on Breakneck, after I wrote the first 3 issues and started getting back this amazing art from James, I was like, you know what? I have a story that I want to tell that's longer than just this initial arc. So I actually wrote all 10 issues way back, and
Hmm.
so I have them. I've had them for a very long time. So um, James doesn't really do comics anymore. So I mean, it would maybe I would have to try and find someone new to work on it if that even happens. Like I don't have any preconception that I'm gonna get to do this. And I'll be honest, I haven't read the scripts in 5 or 6 years probably. So I'm not 100% sure if they would hold up, but because they were
So,
all written at the same time, like 2013,
mhm.
2014, right? So, that was a long time ago, and my scripting style and I guess ability has probably changed since then.
So you'd likely be making some changes, I imagine.
Most likely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I really played to James's art style, and if somebody else was going to be drawing it, then I would try and play to that art style. So there might be some changes that would need to be made. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I'm a listener out there and I want to find the campaign, if I want to find out more about your work and kind of see the next things, what would be some places that I might go to?
Well, right now we have a pre-launch campaign running on Zoop. I mean, you can search Zoop and find it that way, but I'll tell you here, it is zoop.gg/c/breakneck will take you to the pre-launch campaign.
Hmm. Hmm.
One of the things that I actually want to point out, because I think we've had some issues around it, is when you go to the pre-launch campaign, it's basically just a single page with an option for you to plug in your email address to get notified when the campaign goes live. But that campaign, like that, by clicking that, it will send you an email, and you've got to confirm the email in order for your sign up to count.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah.
And one of the things I'm actually doing, so with a couple of friends, I actually did I created a short story just for fun, um, featuring some 1980s cartoon characters that I was a big fan of way back in the day. And one of the things I'm gonna do is when we hit 25 signups on that pre-launch page, I'm gonna release this. It's a 5-page short. It's the Silverhawks for anybody that might.
Oh, love it, love it. Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that too. I want to show that off. So I'm really hoping we can get enough signups on the page that I can put this story out there because it's also a lot of fun. So
That's ironic because I have a good friend, Adam, who I also podcast with, and we both love 80s, 90s animation and superheroes and storytelling. And we were talking not too long ago. We will not be surprised to see Silverhawks entering comics again at some point because we have Thundercats now and Masters of the Universe. So glad to hear that that is happening.
well, it's kind of it's a little short story, it stands by itself, but it's also essentially my pitch. So if anybody wants to make a Silverhawks comic, I got a pitch ready for you already. So
Hey, hey, absolutely. We'll put an image, of course, in the episode from Breakneck, but we'll put some Silverhawks right here as well. Um, so
partly metal,
I'm
partly
supporting that.
real.
That's right. That's right. Well, glad to hear about that. And it sounds like we share a lot of the same ground as far as inspirations and comics backstory as well.
Yeah, no, I mean I love, yeah. You talk about Thundercats, like
Mhm.
that was one of my favorites back in the day. That and GI Joe, He-Man, but Silverhawks was always something a show that I loved, and I'm actually very surprised that it's never been made into a comic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fingers crossed, and hopefully you can be the guy that does it as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Whoever's got that license, give me a call.
That's right. That's right. I'll when I post this, I'll make sure and share it with some folks as well.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure to share the Zoop link in the description of the Spotify episode as well as on the screen as we're talking through. Anything that we missed in the talk through that you would want folks to know about the project or anything upcoming?
No, I mean, in terms of Breakneck, I just think if you're a fan of The Boys, if you're a
Hmm.
fan of Invincible, if you're a little bit older like me and you're a fan of The Authority or
Hmm.
Powers, like those are
Hmm.
good comparisons to I think what Breakneck brings to the table. So, um, yeah, I would love to have everybody check it out and try and get as many copies of this hardcover onto people's shelves.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Mark, it's always great to talk with you. Glad to have you back anytime for a third chat and beyond, and sending all the good vibes for the creating.
Very much appreciated, Jason. Thanks for having me on again.
Anytime, anytime.